How will the men's national team follow up from their spectacular opening game? What effect does ESPN's approach to the World Cup have? And we dot the map of all our new channel members here on Friday's edition of Morning Kick Around. Hello and welcome. You found your way to the show that dots the map of the ever-changing American soccer landscape. It is a USA World Cup match day. How does that make you feel? My name's Robert Kerr, local soccer guy. And to my side, wearing the throwback denim, are you the radio soccer guy, Jason Davis? Are you still on your watching every single game streak? Is that alive?
I am still on my watching every game streak. My newsletter is on a streak of posting every single day. I dropped something this morning. I'm not going to say it was my best work. Maybe some nerves are percolating a little bit. It is US Men's Matchday. I'm kind of in this weird place. I'm like trying to decide as my brain analyzes my brain. Trying to figure that one out. I'm trying to decide if I'm nervous or not nervous. And if I'm not nervous, what does that say about my feelings about the U.S. men's national team? This is what I do. I'm an overthinker. Now, I'm wearing the denim, the throwback, as you mentioned, the Adidas throwback. This thing, what, $90 I paid for this? I think it's well worth it. Got us a win in the game against Paraguay. I was wearing it match day 1. Now I'm wearing it match day 2. Of course, I have to do that. Otherwise, I risk the wrath of the soccer gods, Rob.
I think it can be more than one thing, nervous and excited. I'm just curious to see what happens, what performance is put forward, the atmosphere, see what it's going to be like. They're absolutely popping in Seattle, I'm sure. And it's the first time of this whole World Cup time where I've had the time to sit down and square away and make a specific effort to just watch the game. And so I'm really excited for that indeed. I mean, USA Australia this afternoon. Before we get into our roll call here, I want to shout out some ultras in the wild doing some fun things. Bill, one of our most ardent MK ultras, his trivia team won, and they were called Clang the Clanger. So kudos to the trivia win, Clang the Clanger. Shout out to you. And then maybe we'll bring it up later in the show. MK Ultra Ryan Smeltzer in Fort Wayne featured as the model for their Father's Day sales. So I was thinking in the MK Discord, does that make Ryan the dad of Fort Wayne FC?
I think your logic's impeccable, Rob. Yes, I guess so.
Yeah, so kudos to the MKs doing things out in the wild there. Amongst the things you'll find in the MK Discord, which you can get access to as a channel member, there's been an influx with generosity of gift memberships. There's been an influx, and let's get those new folks on the map. We're going to dot the map as we do on Fridays at the end of the show, and on screen commenting during these live shows is amongst those perks. So you want to get us our MK Ultra roll call here, Jason?
Yeah, let's check it out. Let's see who's here today. Jeff, man, Jeff has been number 1. I think his streak is incredible. I think it's a longer streak than my streak of watching every game of the World Cup or writing a newsletter every day. He's got a streak going of being number 1, first one in the room. We've got LJTZ hitting us up as well. I got a clang there. Let's see what we got. Frederick is here. Tim is here. Armando, our guy Dwayne, Mountains to CFC for life, baby. Let's go. Nate's here. He says he's going to be flying during the game. That is bad planning, Nate. That is a terrible planning. What are you doing, Nate? What's wrong with your life? We've got Steve from Seneca Rocks, Dub V, West Virginia represent. I play French horn. That's Kate. Tulsa Mario in the building. Let's see. We've got Chris Huey. I was going to say something inappropriate with Tulsa Mario. PFNR. Okay. Let's go to, or PFNR. Let's go to John Stark. Let's go to Soccer Night Detroit, Riverside Grove, Homeless Shoe, Daddy of the Match. There you go. There's our roll call for this morning. If you are an ultra and you're jumping in, we'll recognize you as you arrive, and obviously your comments get priority on screen because you support us. If you're not an ultra, considering dropping a couple bucks a month to become a member of Morning Kick Around.
Yes, indeedly do. On today's show, we're going to get to kind of the media coverage and the different networks' approach to the game, the perception of what the American soccer audience is, and talk kind of at length at today's matchup. That's kind of important. United States Matchday taking on Australia. We're surely to dip into that, but acknowledgments first. I got to recognize Juneteenth. And I think as we work our way through the show, we'll dip further into that. And then Father's Day. So any MK Ultras have a Father's Day anecdote or a game that maybe your dad took you to, put that in the comments. I'd love to include Father's Day notes as we work our way through here on Friday, June 19th. Support the show any way you can. Give us a thumbs up, a share, a like. Tell your friends about the program. Support us on Ko-Fi or on the social media platform. Just to follow, like, or share. There goes a long way as well. Should we start the show, Jason?
Let's start the show, Rob. Let's do it.
All right. Let's get into morning kick around on a men's national team match day. Welcome on in. It's Friday morning, USA versus Australia match day. How does the United States men's national team follow up from their outstanding 4-1 win over Paraguay? Australia certainly going to be a different kind of opponent and a different place. Lots of storylines going into this one. You said you're nervous, excited, but what's your concern meter with this game against Australia?
It's low. It's low, Rob.
Low
now, look,
concern.
that Paraguay win was so comprehensive. It reflected on everything that Pochettino has brought to the table for the United States. And what I'm more encouraged by than individual performances is the fact there was a plan. And you don't have to be a tactical genius to have watched that game and picked out some of the things that the United States did to unsettle Paraguay, who had a very good defensive record coming into the tournament. Australia obviously put on a defensive masterclass against Turkey. But watching that game back and seeing how Turkey went about their business, I'm less concerned about the Americans because I think they'll have a plan. Because I think their plan is going to be better than Turkey's plan of trying to unsettle Australia. And I'm reading the previews. Australia's got physical size in the middle of that back line. They think they're as fit as the U.S., so they don't think that's going to be an issue for them. And maybe those things are true. But I think the United States has more individual talent, and they'll have a plan. And I think, obviously, Christian Pulisic's status is up in the air, and everybody's talking about that. And, you can never say a team is going to be better if one of their best players is not available. That's certainly not going to sound legitimate as a statement. But I think, again, the U.S. has enough depth here and has some players who can do some other things that there will be a way to go about it that doesn't require Christian Pulisic to be on the field to get the victory. He's not the difference maker between the United States winning this game, booking their place in the round of 32, and losing the match and being a little bit worried going into the final game against Turkey. Now, there's always a draw on the table. That's certainly a possibility. But I think the United States is going to be buoyed by an incredible atmosphere in Seattle. Yeah. I watched Mexico last night against South Korea. This is not the most talented Mexico team. And Javier Aguirre does not have progressive ideas about what to do with the ball. He wants to basically lock things down. There was a lot of let's pass the ball back and forth for a while. Now, the difference there is that a draw for those two teams would have done the job. And maybe they were just not feeling the energy to go forward and go look for the victory. But Mexico ultimately gets the win on a howler from the South Korean goalkeeper and a great save on the other side by Rangel. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that Mexico didn't play great. It doesn't matter that they didn't create a bunch of chances from open play. It doesn't matter that the goal came from a mistake. They won the game. They move on. And they got the home field advantage. And Armando saying they got refereeing home field advantage. I think that might be a factor here. Now, I'm not saying you should count on it if you're the United States, and I'm not saying that it's a good thing that a referee might be slightly inclined to to give the United States a call here or there. But I definitely think all those things come together so that my concern level is relatively low. It won't be easy. It won't be 4-1, but I've seen a 2-1 scoreline. Chris is throwing that out there. That's what I've got. I got a 2-1 United States victory, and book your place to the round of 32.
I think we should keep in mind, yes, a win would keep the United States in. And it's interesting how you said Christian Pulisic at this point isn't that difference maker to between a win and not a win, which is interesting to think of that. Wouldn't we have thought that? He was awfully impressive in that first game, but I think there's enough forward talent and chemistry, at least shown in that first game. The only thing that would make me nervous is in retrospect, the game against Paraguay. I don't think many teams are going to kind of fall into those same traps that they seem to be kind of stuck in a loop on. So I feel like,
what do you mean? I don't know what you mean. What do you mean?
They were getting caught in the men's national team trap, the pressing, and they were getting caught out, getting, the ball stolen, or they were getting out of pressure very well. And
you think Australia is more capable than Paraguay of breaking a U.S. repress?
I do think that maybe not on a technical level. I'm not sure if they're any better, but I think that they would vary their approach to building out and getting out of tough situations.
I think Paraguay
displayed.
I don't necessarily believe that. I mean, I think what you watched against Turkey, again, if I'm using Turkey to inform my opinion about this Australia team because it's the best evidence I have, what I saw was a Turkey team that got frustrated with Australia's low block, resorted to some long shots that were ill-advised, which gave the Aussies a chance to catch Turkey napping a little bit in transition. I don't think that's the U.S. issue. I think the U.S. is going to be better at filling those spaces with a guy like Tyler Adams, who is on a yellow card and has to be careful. But I think Tyler Adams, and look, again, if you win this game, you're in the round of 32, and you might have the place as top of the group as well, even with Turkey coming. So Turkey obviously needs to beat Paraguay to make that game really, really matter. But I think Tyler Adams is your safety net there. I think he is absolutely going to be in a position, be asked to be the guy to make sure that the United States does not give those opportunities for those long balls to come. You obviously have to watch the goalkeeper, and they're going to try outlets, and they're going to try things for sure. I think the United States will have an idea of how to repress and make those things more difficult on Australia. I don't think I'm not saying it'll be perfect or that Australia won't get their chances, but I also think the United States is going to be better about breaking down Australia and finding goals. And what I think in terms of how Turkey went up against the Aussies, I think they made some mistakes with their lack of patience. I also think that you're looking at a better U.S. attack from the front. I think Fuller and Balogun is a better center forward than Aturkoglu for Turkey. I think he's more capable of doing things that will force Australia to respond to him, the runs he makes. So Jeff, again, I think that this is a win. I don't know. I can't, I'm not sitting here talking about 4-1 or something dominant, but I think this is a win.
Yeah, I don't want to speak from a place of hyper inflation because of one really good performance and result, but I agree with you there that I've got pretty good confidence for the American side going into this.
This makes this more difficult, right? And again, this is not normally our bag to be diving in deep into the tactics. So leave that to other shows. But Australia will not leave as much space between the back line and the midfielders. Yeah, they will be extremely compact. They will absolutely be extremely compact, and it will be incumbent on the United States to use runs to move their lines, right? And I don't think Turkey did enough of that. I was watching that game, and I'm yelling at Turkey, make a run. You're giving no outlets, no opportunity to play the ball in because you're just sitting there static, looking for little pockets of space that are going to be contested the second the ball is passed to you. The United States is going to make runs, and I think that will give an opportunity. I mean, we're talking about Weston McKennie and how excellent he was against Paraguay. We're talking about, again, Balogun and his runs. I would expect that to be a feature of the United States today.
I think there's definitely going to be a moment in this game. This is the one thing I'll put out there that I'll hold tight on, is that I think there's going to be a moment where the Americans are going to really have to hold their nerve and not react to any stirring the pot moments, some dark arts moments from Australia. I feel like Tyler Adams, obviously, like you mentioned, on the yellow. Weston McKennie can be a maverick with his behavior sometimes, and we know what that lapse of judgment from Timo Weah in the Copa America. Like, there's going to be a flare up at some point, it feels like, with A little bit of history in that previous round of games against Australia. Was that less than a year ago? Pulisic had to come out of there with getting a heavy knock, and I think some players, I think was it McKenzie had to kind of like get in someone's face, or was that Chris Richards that had to go chest to chest with some Australians? And that, okay, so getting into the storyline part of the conversation, we have an old-fashioned Willie or won't he injury storyline with Pulisic. How much are we going to see? And if he gets the start, how much protection is he going to get? And are Australia going to really go after him?
I don't know that we want to go down that line of thinking just because it's unknown, right? I think right now the consensus is that Pulisic doesn't start, Rob. So I don't know if we want to talk a lot about what do you do if Pulisic is starting to get hacked by Australia. I mean, obviously there is a tone that needs to be set, and we're going to see how the referee handles it, regardless of who's on the field, because it's not like Australia is not going to be getting their kicks in if Christian Pulisic is on the bench. I do think there's a possibility that there's some subterfuge here, but I also think that Pochettino understands that this is a journey and that this game by itself doesn't determine your ultimate World Cup future. And if you do have any concerns about Pulisic, he's on the bench. Maybe he's available, which I think Pochettino committed to, but he doesn't start. I do think that this is the interesting part of this story, right? Australia is trying to act like we're rivals. We're not. It's like what we try to do with England. And I like the England thing
for the most part, right?
I like the England thing, Matthew, because I didn't write about that in my newsletter today, but I did write about this general thing that Australia is trying to do, which is to gen up emotion around being the underdog, right? They're trying to use an old psychological trick, a trope of sports, which is, oh, they disrespected us. They didn't give us the proper due. Well, now we have more reason to beat them. Now, there's two ways of looking at this. And look, we've all played sports. We've all been in teams. This has kind of been a thing for everybody at some point in their life. If you have, it can be very real, even if it's not, right? Emotionally for Australia, this could matter, even if it's all built on a house of cards. Like, even if this whole thing is kind of ridiculous and silly. And if you're looking at, I'm reading the write-up at The Guardian on this whole thing from Jack Snape, who I guess is following Australia around the tournament. As USA World Cup barbs fly, the Socceroos get motivated to have the final word. And again, the whole thing is like, do you remember Waterboy? You remember the Waterboy?
Oh, of course. I saw it in theaters.
All right, there's a one of the storylines in the Waterboy is that the kicker has to get all worked up, right? To kind of make the other team the bad guy. He's getting yelled at by a coach or whatever, and now he starts seeing that coach's face on the players there, right? And that thing about, like, does it really matter if any of it is real, if you can trick your brain into using that emotion to get a better performance?
I mean, we saw the Michael Jordan documentary or the Bulls documentary. Like, by the time he had been so successful, he was inventing slights against him in order to get himself fired up. Like, that guy didn't say hi to me from across the restaurant last night, so let me put 40 points on these guys.
Right. Which
aside, again, jokey football movie. What's better, Waterboy or The Replacements?
The Replacements is a better movie. All right. So is that the one with Keanu Reeves? That's what that's called, The Replacements. Yeah. All right. Anyway, it's a better movie. I think again, this whole thing is ridiculous. I get it from from an Australia perspective, rather. I don't think the United States is fed into it. It is interesting as a U.S. men's national team fan to see the United States cast as the villain, not just because of like some perceived because some of actual rivalry like Mexico versus the United States, but because we're supposed to be the better team or the more arrogant team. That's not always our position, right? I think about the way that we responded when the Sun of all papers, put easy on their front page back in 2010 when the World Cup draw came out for England.
Oh yeah,
right?
They always get their comeuppance though with those things.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, again, that's what Matthew was talking about with England. Is that should we really worry about what some rag like the Sun puts on their front page? No,
certainly not.
No. Certainly not. You should discount everything the Sun puts in their paper, period. Are they the one with like the page 3 girl or whatever that is? Is that the Sun? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's really unreal. It's like some serious news headline and you open one page. It's like, oh, boobs.
That's such a weird place, England. It's the same kind of thing, right? It's all manufactured. It's all nonsense, but it doesn't mean it doesn't have an impact. But I also think, again, what we're talking about here is the United States being the home team, coming off a comprehensive victory over Paraguay, having having players with deeper CVs than the Aussies, right? So you don't have to work real hard to think, oh, the United States is a better team than Australia. I don't think that Mike Grella is representative of anything, and yet that's who the Aussies have latched on to because they need something, right? They know they need something. And that actually speaks to the U.S. confidence level for me. If the Aussies need to do this, well, then we're in a pretty good spot. Then they saw something that really does worry them because they now know they have to get up. Because I think they understand that they're not going to get the same game from the United States that they got from Turkey.
No, certainly not. And so we already went through like kind of the scenarios of what it means if they were able to pull off this win. And then, yeah, the conflict might be a little bit faux. I mean, obviously that last matchup, I think, was a little bit feisty between these two teams. And yeah, people have tried to run away and, you know, create something out of nothing. But I guess one last note on kind of Pulisic and that whole thing. Who would you put in the lineup if he's unable to go from the start?
Man, I don't even know that I like the idea of Brendan Aronson a little bit just because he's such a handful. He's certainly excellent on the repress, right? He's excellent defensively from the front. And again, if you're trying to make sure that Australia doesn't get the ball out long to Toure and Irikunda, then you need somebody like that who, when the ball maybe is turned over in the attacking area of the field, you're working to get it back, or at least to slow down those opportunities, allow your center backs to start tracking those runs. Yeah.
I'm on the fence. Should we put this this is pretty high on the bad joke meter. Did you see Matt Capela's joke about costume idea for that game against Turkey? I don't know do we want to entertain that? That's a groaner a little bit.
I'll put it on the screen. He does pay us to be a member and an ultra, so he gets priority commenting. Yeah, man. We're just gonna let it sit there. Okay. Yeah, there you go.
All right. 3:00 USA versus Australia. How will the United States follow up from that blockbuster opening day? We shall see this afternoon. Stick with us. We're gonna dot the map later on in the show. Talk about the perception of the American soccer audience. But next up, Fox frustrated with ESPN? Let's talk about it. Next up on Morning Kick Around. Welcome back in. Media war regarding coverage of the World Cup, or is this like the Australia versus USA thing, kind of a contrived media story? Fox is saying the story regarding frustration at Fox over ESPN's World Cup coverage simply not true. And if you still watch TV networks, sports networks, ESPN has pretty much not run any World Cup highlight since the Cup kicked off, and the midday pundits really don't seem prepared at all to take on the World Cup topic in any meaningful way. So with, frustration for Fox or not, it does speak volumes about ESPN of how they value the world's biggest sporting tournament.
Yeah, look, I think this is a little bit concocted. Yeah, but it's also reflective, Rob, of just the media world that we now live in, right? That the idea that there's sort of a universal conversation going on and that everybody is talking about the same stuff and covering it.
The yearn for monoculture?
That's out the window, right? And this is a function of a couple things. One of them being that there are a lot of other places for people to go for coverage. I mean, we're an example of that, right? The fact that we're able to make this show and broadcast it on YouTube and people are watching us and talking about soccer with us, maybe rather than looking for soccer from ESPN or Fox or whoever, is a reflection of that. Also, obviously, here, this is the issue of ESPN doesn't have the rights. Fox has the rights. FIFA is very restrictive on what you can do if you do not have the rights. And what is ESPN's incentive to heavily cover this tournament on their flagship network if they can't show highlights day of, right? Which is, that's that's a thing, right? If you can't show highlights day of or as the games are happening, why would I go to ESPN? Why would I go over there? All they're doing is talking about it. They're not showing me anything that happened. So and look, we've seen this before too, because ESPN, when they didn't have any NHL, didn't talk about the NHL. Now, I think hockey for me is a little more niche than the World Cup. I mean, I know it's a big sport in certain parts of this country, in your part of the world, for example. But come on, that again, like the thing that is interesting about this is that this is more about the business decisions than it is anything else. And I guess if you want to argue that we're suffering for a lack of mainstream ESPN coverage or that hurts the game somehow, I understand why you could gin up some anger over this. I'm seeing that somebody said that ESPN has very good coverage on ESPN FC. I'm
And is
not a
that
fan of
actually a
ESPN
television?
FC.
I
I'm
was
not
gonna
a
say, is
fan,
that
but
even a channel, or is that just a YouTube channel at this point? Does that run on terrestrial TV or cable TV?
well, here's another thing. This is a sign of the times too. Ask me when I last clicked over to watch ESPN do anything other than maybe broadcast a game I was interested in. It's been forever. I can't remember. Right? I now look. I also think that I'm not representative because I work in this business and I'm constantly doing I'm constantly talking about soccer, and the way that I consume information is mostly through written word because I want to process things from a reporting standpoint and then give my opinion via this show, via Sirius XMFC or whatever, via the Best Soccer Show. I don't love regurgitating people's talking points, so I don't watch a lot of talking head stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll leave this to you guys, to the ultras too. Like Matthew says it's on the ESPN streaming service, ESPN FC, and I do come across it occasionally, right? That's the world we live in, though, right? It's like you get to choose. You don't have to engage with one place or whatever. In a connected world, ESPN's coverage has less weight than it used to, and again, without having the rights themselves being limited by as they are by FIFA, I'm not sure that this is really a thing.
Yeah, I kind of learned about what valued importance was on sports stuff at a young age. I remember in England, the FA Cup only really seemed as big of a deal when BBC had the rights that year, because they would put it everywhere, and you'd think that it was the country's biggest happening there ever was, is the first couple of the third round of the FA Cup. But when a different channel had the rights, it didn't even pop up. So yeah, that's the case here. It's only you'd have to really go into your selection of media knowing what they have or what they don't have. So it's important to them what's beneficial for them to show. And so yeah, ESPN FC is the outlet that they're utilizing. But it is wild that ESPN has some of the biggest, highest paid sports pundits in our country, and they can barely discuss the topic at all.
Yeah, that part is frustrating, right? Look, as much, and we're going to talk about the popularity of soccer in America here in a couple minutes, but it is frustrating that what is supposed to be one of the, or if not the number one sports information outlets in America has people on their broadcast that cannot talk intelligently or pronounce basic. I'm not even talking about I'm not asking you to go to man 23 on the Turkey roster or on the Bosnia roster, or on the Czechia roster, and give me a pronunciation that's accurate. I struggle with that stuff. But come on, Kylian Mbappe's been around for a minute. He's one of the best players in the world. You can't pronounce his name properly? Are you serious? Lamine Yamal. You can't pronounce Lamine Yamal? Are you kidding me? What are you talking about? Just go listen to somebody say it one time. And preferably from the home country, but if not, get the basic English pronunciation down. That is a problem.
Well, we are a long way away for a very long time, basically until NBC took on the Premier League. If you ever saw soccer highlights pop up, or if it was on SportsCenter or something, those ESPN anchors almost sometimes seem like they mispronounce things on purpose to delegitimize it, that they even have to show stuff on their channel.
I don't think there's a conspiracy theory around that.
Not necessarily conspiracy theory, but they definitely didn't mind doing it not by the book, or maybe a little bit of a tone.
Well, no, it's just being underinformed and not appreciating the game. Yes,
so lampooning it because they're not comfortable with it.
Well, yes, right. Essentially, not lampooning. I don't think they went so far as to lampoon. It's just if you don't know something, if you don't know about something, yeah, obviously you don't want to feel like an idiot because you don't know. So the best way to deal with that into psychologically is to treat it like it doesn't matter as much. And so yes, I agree that that definitely was happening. And I just put out that comment from George about this is about Stephen A. Smith, because I did come across this, that he apparently was talking about France and didn't know or failed to clock that France won the World Cup in 2018. And that kind of thing, which, look, I don't have a problem with Stephen A. Smith talking about soccer. I do have a problem with anybody who is going to do a tourist bit on the game and act like they're supposed to. That's Stephen A. Smith recognizing something we're about to talk about, that the popularity of the game is undeniable in the United States. And if you do not catch on, if you do not do soccer, you are going to find people saying, oh, man, that guy doesn't know anything about one of the most popular games in the country. Why would I pay attention to him? Like, you have to keep up with the times. And that's Stephen A. Smith and many other people in that age bracket. And my problem, of course, is not that you do it, because I get it why he would want to talk about it. It's the World freaking Cup. It's being informed enough not to sound like an idiot when you talk about it, right? If I don't know something, Rob, I either learn a lot about it before I start spewing an opinion, or I turn to people who actually do know about it and let them inform me. Like that's a thing that I think we have lost in the United States. And it's a thing I want to make sure is part of this show, part of my radio show, such as it is, what I'm in control of, and part of the Best Soccer Show, which is, if I don't know something, I bring on somebody who knows that thing, and I and the audience can be educated together.
Yeah, learning people's perspectives is one of the best learning opportunities you can in life. And soccer, being the global game it is, provides so many opportunities for you to learn different people, places, things, and the way people live their lives, while also having the unifying thing in common, which is, one of the best and favorite things of being into footy. And I think Americans got amongst the red flags or alarm bells that how big the World Cup really is the Cape Verde goalie jumping to like 50 million social media subscribers because of one appearance, like blowing past all the professional American athletes, after one game.
Think, Rob, I think you just did exactly what Callan Rees is talking about here. So
I didn't look over there. There you go. But that's right. A great example. He understands. That's an example of just the world's game's popularity and the American perception not quite understanding that literally the world is watching this game. Stay with us. We got a bit more to go in the show. If you are a new channel member, dot the map, get your location either in the Discord dot the map thread or put it here in the chat. We'll dot the map at the end of the show. But we got another segment. We're going to talk about America's reach to the youth population next up here on Morning Kick Around. Welcome back in here, Morning Kick Around on Friday, June 19th. And I think we are seeing a little bit what we were just talking about. We are seeing American media realizing that they've underestimated the reach of the world's game here in the United States, or maybe it's unrealized just how many people are paying attention. You found an article that kind of like speaks to that.
Yeah, not an article. Okay, full disclosure, I'll pull back the curtain. Rob and I got together this morning and said, okay, what are we talking about? Now, we talked about the U.S. men's national team game against Australia and, thoughts around that and how the U.S. is going to need to figure out a way to break down that Australia low block and all that stuff, like very soccer-y things. And it was like, okay, what else are we going to talk about? I mean, that's probably not going to be the whole show. So I mentioned something I had seen on social media, and it was not related to soccer at all. It was about the thing that happened at the White House on Sunday. Okay, just everybody knows what that was, right? And it involved an MMA fight or multiple. I don't even know. I didn't care, but
I think it was a festival of blood
happening on the White House lawn. And that subsequently, obviously, there's a lot of think pieces and things that come out of something like that, right? The world exists as for media as a way to comment on everything, and that is an event. It was a sporting event, but obviously politics is wrapped around it. Okay, and so the New York Times had a story about young men's perceptions of that event, right? President Trump's UFC fight on Sunday appeared to offer everything a young American man could want. Appeared to offer everything a young American man could want, right? And it talked about octagon girls and the fights and the pyrotechnics and the fighter jets. Now, this is a cartoon perception of what a young man likes, right? Like, yes, there probably are young men who like all those things. Absolutely, there probably are. But there are a lot that don't, right? And so this led to a conversation on social media about UFC's actual popularity. How popular is UFC? If you really look, really closely, you drill down on it, it's a niche sport, right? The UFC is a niche sport. Did it have a moment where it seemed like it was breaking out of a very small niche? Yes, absolutely, undeniable. Is it one of the biggest sports in America? No, 100% not. Right? It's
I'd say
nowhere near.
UFC had its like peak run in my mind from like 06 to 16, 06 to 18.
There was a moment when it felt like it was, and now ESPN pushed it in terms of highlights and talking about it like it was a big thing, right? It took over where boxing was dropping the bag. UFC picked that up, right? If you're talking about combat sports. Yeah. So anyway, this discussion about the popularity of UFC and how it isn't really that popular, the TV ratings really aren't that good, led me to make a comment about soccer. Because soccer is massively more popular with young men than the UFC. Is that a wrong statement? Does anybody have any issue with me saying that? Massively more popular. Now, I'm not quantifying it, but I'm telling you that from 18 to 34, that age range, if you polled 1,000 men in that age range, you're going to have more soccer fans in that group than you are UFC fans, or people who would rate soccer higher in their list of sports than the UFC. But the reason that the UFC rather, the reason that the New York Times talks about fights and pyrotechnics and ring girls, this is what young men want, is because, again, of an antiquated perception about what young men actually are interested in, but also in the sense that soccer doesn't have one locus, right? It doesn't have a one place that we are like looking at to drive discussion and appreciation. It is so diffused across the globe, even across our country, levels, different cultures. Like, soccer's popularity is so hard to pin down in the United States because we're all different kinds of soccer fans. Whereas if you walked around any major American city or whatever, polled people in a town and you talked about sports with them, you're going to find people who like, oh, football. Yeah, it's either the NFL or college football, right? Those are
pretty universal here.
Universal, right? Obviously, baseball, the best league in the world is in America. And yeah, people may like other leagues, but come on, if you care about baseball, you're looking at Major League Baseball, the NBA. It's the same thing, right? Like those give one place for the community to gather around to have their discussion. It's not how soccer works at all. At all. We're one of a million soccer shows happening right now on YouTube, probably. And, they're all talking about something slightly different. There may be other American soccer shows, but there's English soccer shows and Mexican football shows in South America. And again, like, even if we want to say like, oh, people are going to look to the best version of the game, what is that for people? Even that kind of is up in the air as to what it is. I mean, right now we're talking about the World Cup and it feels like one place to gather, and it is. But once the World Cup is over, we all go back to our individual camps and we care about our individual little corners of the world.
Yeah, think about all the different factions or angles that attention is being driven to. I mean, I myself in the local game, then there's folks that really only pay attention to MLS, and then there's folks that are deeply involved with following their like Mexican teams, and there's some people that only watch the Premier League. I mean, that's a lot of different people, and you're seeing that. I mentioned it in the previous segment that a player getting one standout performance at the World Cup gave him more social media following from one game than all these NBA, NFL stars. And so that is just one of many realizations. And I've been loving the clips of the World Cup where they've been going to the cities, and the local news reporters are going to like a training that the countries have put on, or the soccer
Right.
bar. And people are like, oh my God, like people give a shit about this. Like, this is
Right.
wild.
Yeah.
Like, still
Yeah, look,
not quite realizing that there is a lot of eyeballs and a lot of people putting energy into this game outside of the World Cup.
yeah, and look, I mean, I'm not even trying to say that the World Cup is reflective of the popularity of soccer in America. I think it's a unique event. There are lots of people who are attracted to the big event nature of the World Cup who maybe aren't actual soccer fans, or maybe will be soccer fans but are still in the very early stages. And so how do you count them? I'm not looking at the World Cup boom as something that transforms American soccer. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that we, over the course of the past 35, 40 years in this country, partly because of the way that satellite television and the internet have affected sports and sports consumption, have become a soccer nation. We just have. And, that again, measuring it is the
A
question.
soccer
Figuring out what
nation
that
not
means.
being pulled in the same direction. We're a
Well,
soccer
no, but
nation that's being
yes,
stretched all
right.
these different directions.
And not a soccer nation where that growth has been reflected by a conversation in sports, right? So again, Stephen A. Smith came up earlier. Stephen A. Smith is one of the biggest names in sports commentary, analysis, whatever you want to put it, talking heads, right? I know he's branching out these days. What are you doing, Stephen? But
Young and the Restless, right?
he's he's a sports guy, right? He built his career on being a sports guy, millions and millions and millions of views every single day on the content he creates. He knows he has to dip his toes in the World Cup waters. He knows he does, lest he become irrelevant for a certain section of sports fans in this country. Like, he knows that. He understands that. He's doing it imperfectly, right? But that is a reflection of the fact that most of American sports media has failed to keep up with this. Now, again, when you are making decisions at ESPN or Fox or any of these other outlets, how do you attack this? Do you just pick I gotta pick a lane. Premier League. That's a lane that we're going to pick so that we cover that, right? And then, but you know that that's only a small portion, or it's a significant portion, but it's a small portion of all soccer fans. Like, there's no way to do soccer in sports, general sports media, that's going to cover everything, right? That's impossible. You cannot do it. If you do Premier League, you're missing out on Mexican soccer fans. If you do the Mexican League, you're missing out on Premier League fans. There's the Champions League. There's international football. There's entire communities who care about leagues that nobody else ever talks about. So are there more soccer fans in America than any place in the world? I would bet there are. Maybe outside of India, but they're terrible playing it, right? So again, this is all sort of like talking about how difficult our situation is as Americans when it comes to this sport, because it is here, it is baked into who we are, but we don't act like it's important in most of what we think of as the true mainstream sports media.
Yeah, and it'll be curious if for the last couple of years there's been this we're going to do this and this because World Cup will add a boom. We obviously have seen less purchasing of hotel rooms and this, that, and the other. How much cultural impact or impact on domestic teams and fan bases, is that a false projection that teams will soak up more? Will people get more curious? This unrealized population of American soccer fans, will that translate? Will people find the local after this? I think is one of the big things lingering in the back of my mind from all this. Like, commercial values, people were driven away by the policies and the prices and all that. But as far as the cultural impact, I'm very curious.
I don't know. The average American sports fan that I have a projection of in my head, right, which is probably unfair because there's not one type of American sports fan. But if you think about sort of the average American sports fan, like the middle of the road American sports, like the guy in the diner that the New York Times always goes to talk to about politics, like that person, but in a sports context, it's hard for me to imagine that person diving fully in to something that doesn't feel big, right? Because it's not his culture. Like, he may be a college football fan, right? Depending on where he lives, it could be a big time college football. It could be middle of the road college football. It might be a college football fan, but they grew up with that, right? He or she, they grew up with college football. So it's easy for them to interact with something that maybe isn't the biggest version of that sport. But when it comes to soccer, you're going to sell them on going out and watching the college kids play. You're going to sell them on watching soccer be played in a baseball stadium? Like, that seems like a tough sell. I don't think there's no one that's going to be attracted and converted because of the World Cup. I think there will be some, but I don't know that I see the World Cup as sort of the gateway drug to local soccer necessarily. Does that make sense? I mean,
No.
maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, Rob. I hope for the sake of Oakland County FC and so many of these other clubs around the country that is absolutely wrong. Now, and if you do live in a place where your only access to the game is through that portal, it's not, you don't have a Major League Soccer team in town, and maybe you do want to engage with it in person rather than solely on television, because of
Yeah.
course we're in a time when you don't have to go anywhere to engage with the game. You can sit at home. Like, do we think it's more likely that somebody who is suddenly interested in soccer because of the World Cup looks around them and goes, oh, there's a team that plays over here that plays in the third division, or is a high amateur team, or maybe even is a USL championship team, maybe even an MLS team, that I'm interested now because of all the World Cup was fun? Or do they turn their television on and go, oh, there's one of the players I remember from one of the best teams at the tournament. Oh, that's Harry Kane. Oh, that's Bukayo Saka. Oh, that's Declan Rice. And I'm an Arsenal fan now. Which one's more likely? Right? I think
Yeah,
it's probably
that's
the
a good
latter.
question to ask. But yeah, the latter is probably easier. But I think there's folks like, I mean, a lot of folks that may do that. I think there's people are wired a little bit differently, but you think there's probably a majority more likely to follow the
By the way,
individual that you're at overseas rather than tune in. But there will be a little bump, and I think Matt
no,
said
okay,
something
okay.
about that.
Riverside Grove. By the way, I saw Riverside Grove say stuff is happening in Riverside, California. That's good. We're going to follow up on that. I'm so sick of this conversation. We've been having it for decades. We don't need this mainstream fan. The game is already huge here and growing through the youth. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was the upshot of what I was trying to say. Like it's here. We don't need to do this thing. And I don't like everything is sort of like in the service of money entering the system at various points so as to grow those individual parts of American soccer. Right? Like, I think it's weird the way the conversation around MLS television prospects works. Now, it's not about ratings so much anymore because of the Apple deal, but there's this very quick response to be negative about MLS when it comes to the number of people who watch that league because of I don't know, like a baked in bias about the way they or a baked in, people who don't like the way that the league operates, right? That's a fundamental problem for them. I know there are people in soccer media who have long had a grudge against MLS, and so any opportunity to knock MLS down is taken. And I always find that weird, because to what ends does that, what are you doing there? Why is it so important to you? And again, this is the thing, like, I don't know that I worry so much. I wrote about this actually. I don't worry so much about what attendance numbers are for MLS games or how many people are watching on television. I don't care. The only reason it would matter is if you think, again, MLS making more money leads to some better expression of soccer that, like, why does it matter to you? If you're a FC Cincinnati fan, does it matter to you that MLS gets more money into their system? Like, what I'm saying here is, what's the point? Is the point for MLS to become one of the best leagues in the world? Does that matter to you if you're a soccer fan in America? If you're an FC Cincinnati fan, should you care if MLS is among the best leagues in the world? What is that
You
about,
shouldn't.
validating you as a soccer fan, or is that because you just want to watch the best possible soccer in your backyard? For me, I admit that everything leads to the United States men's national team winning a men's World Cup. That's what I want to see in my lifetime. So if I process why I care about MLS growing, it's because of that, right? It's not because I want the owners to have more money in their pockets, or I necessarily even care if they can spend more on salaries. The idea would be whatever's going to be better for American soccer writ large so that we can win a World Cup. But I don't know that people are necessarily looking at it in those terms. They kind of just have this vague sense of it needs to be bigger. And I don't really understand why all the time.
No, and like you said, I think it could be a mix of both, with perception of what their league is, because maybe in the internet age, they don't want to be called a tin pot fan or anything like that. But I imagine the perception of MLS in cities where they have a team. I know certainly for me, compared to cities that don't have an MLS team, like, I'd support I could see why people would support that's their local team. They can't really necessarily negotiate or have any say in what league or whatever they play in. So I think that's different. But to your point of everything flows up, if the MLS is more competitive and that level is higher and Americans getting playing time there, that only makes things better for the competitive level of what might flow upwards towards the national team. I mean, it definitely rubs people the wrong way, like you said, media and fans and otherwise, with the way the league operates. But in general, like it's kind of a double-edged sword. Is like it is what the main force behind domestic soccer here, even if you don't agree with it or vibe with how it's
I'm
operated.
talking again. I'm talking, and I know this is convoluted. My apologies. I'm trying to get clear ways to say this. We are American soccer fans are always in a defensive crouch.
Okay.
Always. And it doesn't matter if you're an MLS fan or a USL fan or whatever. We're always in this defensive crouch, and we're always judging ourselves. Now, look, the English are going to talk. You'll run into Latin American soccer fans who want to talk down American soccer. You know what? That's their prerogative. They can do all that. We're always, though, feeling like we have to judge ourselves against those cultures.
Okay,
And
so
again,
we've had to fight against it from our own people too.
Yeah, absolutely. We have an inferiority complex in this country when it comes to our game. We absolutely do. And we are in defensive crouch, not just against other cultures, but against each other. Because it's not like I can't just enjoy my team. I've got to worry about what you think about how the quality of the soccer here, or whether the chants are legitimate or not, or like, we don't do it the right way. There's no such thing. There is literally no such thing as doing soccer the right way when talking about an expression of culture. I'm not talking about like how you like teaching the game and stuff. There is absolutely a right way to do that. But I mean, like when the fans go into the stadium and start singing or chanting or doing whatever they're going to do, there's no right way. There's no right way. Stop it with that. Like, don't give me this thing about like, but English football culture is better. It's older. It's older. It's not better. I'm not making a qualitative judgment on football culture. Right? Again, you have to talk about what you care about at the end of it. What are you working towards? I'm working towards us sounding like English fans in the stands. No, I give a shit about that. Are we working towards our leagues, plural, being the best in the world? Okay, sure. And that may be worthwhile on some level, but again, it's about how you get there and whether that's worth it, whether it's vale la pena, whether it's worth the pain of it, right? Because that process, if you're going to focus on those things, there are going to be lots of frustrations along the way, which might mitigate your enjoyment of your local team. And Riverside Grove said that. I just want to enjoy my team. Who cares about anything else?
That's what I was trying to say too. It's like whatever league they're in, support your local team is kind of how I feel about it. But to come full circle
don't let your soccer fandom need to be validated by anybody else. That's it.
That's a good point. And coming full circle to what kind of sparked this off is the media. I think it was New York Times talking about the UFC thing on the White House lawn. That's everything a young man would be interested in. And I think in general, the overarching thing is legacy media is a slow moving ship, and they are not connected with what's actually going on the ground in any way.
That's absolutely right. That is absolutely right. And because I love the game and I do want the game to grow and so that we can all share it together. Like I also think that is a worthwhile ends, right? Like we're supposed to share this thing together. It is a cultural bond that I think has real power. That's where I am, right? Like again, and also I want the U.S. men's national team to win a World Cup. So like whatever is in service of that and makes me able to connect with people in my country on the sport I love, then let's go. Let's keep doing that.
Yeah, going in before this tournament started, I wanted at least one moment that drew like a kind of like a light bulb memory into people to hopefully there was some sort of unified or at least some sort of monoculture around at least one moment. And we got that with that first game. So like that was a huge check mark in my box for what I wanted the American team to do in this tournament. And so I'm super curious to see what game 2 brings, and will that slow moving ship of the the big time legacy media? Will they acknowledge that it's more than a niche, and it's something we can share all together without having to validate it from anyone else? But stick with us here. We got at least one dot to add to the map and wrap up our week here on Morning Kick Around. Stay here. Welcome back here. Final segment of Friday's episode of Morning Kick Around on a men's national team match
Can I just
day.
acknowledge? I just want to acknowledge. I know I'm a lot on that stuff, guys. I'm aware that I'm a lot when it comes to the stuff we just talked about. I always feel like people are like, Jason, what the hell are you talking about? What is all this? Nobody cares about any of these things. Just talk about soccer. And that's true. I'm glad we're dotting the map. Soccer fans getting recognized in America. That's what we care about.
That certainly is, and you can wander off down that limb, Jason. Let's talk about the things we know, the things we're passionate about here on this program. Doing it from a different lens here on Morning Kick Around. We talked about all the variety of options, legacy media or streaming here on YouTube and other platforms, and lean into what we got. But what we got was we have MK Ultras, and we've had a swath of new members this week, thanks in large part to the generosity of other Ultras purchasing guest memberships. And we do hope that those guests, that's a 1 monther, so we hope that you stay on board with us. But it's time to dot the map. We got one in the dot the map thread on the Morning Kick Around Discord server, which is one of the benefits of become a channel member. And we got a couple people here in the chat here, but let's go to the Discord. Chad E. He is in Grand Haven, Michigan, and we were asked which state or city has the leaders of the most MK Ultras. I think Michigan might be the one.
I think you guys are killing it up there in Michigan. Absolutely. This was Chad E, you said?
Chad E.
Any clubs for Chad E that we want to put on his dot?
He's got 3. So this is one of the things we're just talking, and I love it for, and he's got all 3 categories. He's got local, national, and international teams. So it's Detroit City FC, Portland Timbers, and Chelsea.
Chad looks like he's close to Grand Rapids. So is he going to be choosing to support AC Grand Rapids in MLS Next Pro?
I'm sure that that's the sort of catchment area that AC Grand Rapids is hoping for, because on the west side of the state, it's not very densely populated, so it's pretty easy to zip in and out. Like if you're at an outlying area there, going into Grand Rapids is
can I ask you a question about the Great Lakes life? Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
just me being an East Coast guy, not knowing a ton about this part of the country. I've been to Detroit a couple times, maybe once at least. Yeah, I think maybe once. Spent some time in Chicago. Never been to Milwaukee. Like, do you like cross the lake? Is that a thing? Like, do you like, or is like, if I wanted to go to Milwaukee from Grand Rapids, do I have to just drive all the way around, or take a, like, what? How am I getting there?
Okay, so 99% of everyone has to drive around the lake. So Grand Rapids to Milwaukee is not that far. But with the lake, that is a 4-hour drive at the very minimum. There is one ferry boat that does that trip from it's one of the beach towns on Lake Michigan, does take a ferry from Ludington, goes to Wisconsin. But I've done that one time in my life, and that was when my English grandparents were here. Like, it was just like a novelty thing. Like, it's not like usable enough to where it's like a main throwaway. You either have to go up, you have to either go north all the way around through the UP or down the bottom through Chicago. So that is a very, like, there's definitely, I'm sure if we wanted to find random renderings, I bet there's all sorts of pie in the sky things about bridges and super highways to get in between there.
I was gonna say there's a certain gentleman who's very focused on space these days who also thought that he could like bore tunnels under every city and create travel
loops or whatever.
Yeah, hyperloops and all those things. We can't get a tunnel under under Lake Michigan. I'm just kidding. I know that sounds That's probably insane. That's
But yeah,
probably
the
an
lake
insane.
definitely gets in the way between Michigan and Wisconsin are very close but very far away all at the same time. And they'll always say that they deserve the UP more than Michigan, but
I did.
that's a local thing.
This also reminds me that I went to church last week with my family and sat behind a gentleman who was wearing, a golf shirt, polo style shirt, and it was a pattern, and the pattern was the Great Lakes. It was like a repeating pattern of the Great Lakes. And I was like, "What is
Okay,
happening
so
right
if you
now?"
come to Michigan, especially in the summertime, everything is 90% of what people are wearing are either the town they're from or some sort of pattern or some sort of pun on Great Lakes stuff.
Oh man, wow.
Definitely
Okay.
a backdrop of we got going on here. But
Well, welcome
largely
to
it's
chat.
the west side of Michigan going back to Grand Haven. That's a great place. Like if you ever have time to like spend a few days and relax, the west side of Michigan is a place to just like chill the F out. In the summertime, you can bounce from like lots of inland lakes. There's lots of pleasant beach towns. I'd recommend a trip over there as well.
It
Jenny,
doesn't.
I know you got 2 cents.
I just
Go
want
ahead,
to
Jenny.
stand really quick for Grand Haven. It is probably my favorite place on the planet Earth. It's this little like
Wow.
beach. It's like a beach town in the summertime, and you got this wonderful state park beach with a beautiful pier at the mouth of the Grand River, and it's just kind of emblematic of that entire Lake Michigan shore. Where it's in the summertime, it just becomes this giant like beach party almost, where it's just beach towns all up and down the lake with dunes and awesome beaches. It's great. If you ever get a chance to visit Lake Michigan, Grand Haven would be my number one destination.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. I had no idea Grand Haven had that kind of game. Now we know. Now we know, Rob.
It's a little bit farther north, but the peninsulas north of Traverse City are places that you wouldn't ever think of are the beauty of those places. But you're zooming in on Grand Haven here. Is it the Coast Guard Festival there, or is that Ludington? I know they have like a really big summer thing. Yeah. But yeah, Grand Haven amongst the beautiful places that
Well,
might
we
not
should be getting we should
actually,
get some
renowned.
we should get some residuals from the tourist board of Michigan and Grand Haven and the Grand Rapids area, because yeah, we're just doing work here. Look at these beaches. Look at these beaches on the lake. I don't think I've ever been to a beach on a Great Lake. I've been to beaches on a lake. They're usually kind of gross, but I guess that's not the case with the Great Lakes, right?
Especially not on the west, like Michigan's west side. It can get sometimes. And one of the best things about Chicago, though, is the lake shore. But that from time to time that can get a little gross. But people, especially folks from abroad, think that it's an ocean when they see it. Like,
Oh, sure. Well,
and the access
it is.
from you, and in the summertime, they're like that. That 3-month window where they call it the playpen. It's almost like a Miami South Beach sort of a scene there. You're in the shadow of skyscrapers, floating in yachts and stuff like that. That's quite a scene. But
Yeah, no, I do know that they are lakes, but effectively they are inland seas, right? They're basically that size. I mean, if you don't know anything about the Great Lakes, you at least know like the Edmund Fitzgerald and stuff like that, and that stuff doesn't happen on regular lakes. Like it's got to be a big ass lake for that kind of weather to take down a big boat,
Well, since we are, we're going to cut this up and send this to the Michigan Tourism Board. But if you go like around the east side of the state, past the Thumb area, that's all about shipwrecks. Like there was like a 50-year period where like hundreds of boats went down when they were hauling goods up and down the lakes in Michigan. So there's some lore on the all around. It's not just Edmund Fitzgerald was just the biggest in modern and obviously folks star or a rock star was it Fogerty? No, not Fogerty. Gordon Lightfoot. Was he
Gordon
a
Lightfoot,
rock
yeah.
star or a
I don't know,
folk
whatever.
star? Anyway,
A popular musician of some type. I see that Yuri wants to put a dot on Germantown, Maryland. So Yuri,
Yeah.
if you want a different name, I can put a different name, but that's obviously what I'm seeing. And I know you said Arsenal. I saw Arsenal in
and
there.
Haiti.
The national team of Haiti. Awesome. That's great. Okay. Germantown is, generally speaking, in my part of the world, it's up there. I'm way down down here in this general area where the hand is, and Germantown's up there. But we're in the general DC Baltimore region. So shout out to Yuri, who is representing. What else?
Has anyone else gotten into the chat? I'm looking on the Discord. I don't see any new ones. Do we have any? Riverside Grove wants to add Lansing Common Quality Club. And I don't know if we mentioned it too much on the main show, but we're working with the Midwest Premier League, talking power rankings and players of the month. And Lansing Common, a big club in the Midwest Premier League. And they have fans all over the place just from their, supporter built model and all those guys.
Let's take a wider look. Yeah, that's great. Let's take a wider look at the map. We're still no, I'm serious. That's great. I just wanted to take a look at the map here because so we are still not represented in Montana, in Wyoming, which are sparsely populated states, to be fair. North Dakota, South Dakota. We got none of the Dakotas. Now, if this was like a game of Risk, but with the United States, we wouldn't have any holdings or whatever that is. However you play Risk in those states. We are not in Nebraska. We are just over the border from Omaha in Iowa. I believe that is technically Council Bluffs, Iowa. See the Missouri River there? That's the border between Iowa and Nebraska. But we are not represented in Nebraska proper, which is a surprise to me considering how much we've talked about Union Omaha on this show. Where else? What else are we missing, Rob? I think we're good.
I feel like there's whole swaths of Texas. Like we got a couple dots in Texas. That one's a little bit lightly populated, and then Denver and Colorado. We need to pump those numbers
Denver.
up.
We do have Max in Colorado, but you're right. Colorado's a little light. I just was noting that I guess I was going to do a Four Corners thing. So we've got actually not even Four Corners, the directions, the cardinal directions. Farthest north is KRS. Save the Caps. By the way, great showing at the World Cup for Canada yesterday.
No doubt.
In Vancouver. Yeah, incredible
expensive win though. That injury was ghastly. That was probably the ugliest on-field moment, the leg break in that game. But I was discussing last night as far as the expanded tournament and the people frustrated with more teams, or is it the format? I lean into more format based, the frustrations, but even before the red cards, Qatar was not that was a performance that left them a little bit short there. I don't know if that was a high level world-class performance.
No, it was you're understating it quite a bit. Qatar was crap is what you're saying.
And in that same vein, I want to see what Curacao is able to do, because that was an unfair opening game on them to take on Germany, the first ever. So I want to see how they bounce back.
Shout out to KS Rail Fan. KS Rail Fan, I appreciate you. Says he's a bestie in Topeka, Kansas, but not an MK Ultra. So in terms of Kansas representation, yeah,
come to our side.
And we do have 7-8 Spinner and Piltdown Man in Kansas itself. And Topeka's there. You see Topeka there, which is where that's Algeria, right? They took over because Topeka is home to the University of Kansas, and it's Rock Chalk, Algeria.
Yeah, that's a moment.
Oh, that's Lawrence. I'm sorry. That's Lawrence. My mistake. Jeff, thank you. KS Rail Fan Jeff. My mistake. That's Lawrence. Lawrence is not Topeka. Those are two different places. I lived in Kansas. I should know better. I'll shut up now. But yeah, Manhattan is Kansas State. Lawrence is Kansas. It's University of Kansas. So not Topeka. Topeka is the capital of Kansas, though. There you go. All right. So we have the farthest north over there. This is east. Chucklehead Funk.
Who is
Portland, Maine. Portland, Maine. Chucklehead Funk is out there.
Do we have New Hampshire people? I've been sent a couple of things about some groups trying to get something going at the either USL or MLS Next Pro level in New Hampshire.
We got some people there. I want to follow up on that. Yeah. Tom is in New Hampshire. Tom with an H. I love a Tom with an H. And then Grumpy Huey is also, he's got 2 dots. Somehow he managed to scam us into 2 dots on the map, but he got a New Hampshire map, dot rather. And then farther south, I guess it's very close here. I guess it is Miami. Junior's in Miami. That's farther south than what we've got in South Texas with our guy Jamal, who runs the Red Crowns, and Regino Gonzalez down there. I don't know, man.
That's close. That's very close. Are they parallel?
I think it might be. Man, I think it might be Miami by just a touch, just a tiny little bit. And then west, We got some dots over there on the west coast of California. This is one of the most beautiful places in the country. Talking about beautiful places, Aaron is our farthest west. Yeah. Sorry. Yes, Angus is saying that there's a big difference between Topeka and Lawrence. I just had a brain fart on it, Angus. That's my fault.
Cut
My
him some
apologies.
slack on that one.
Yeah,
He
cut me
he
some slack.
recognizes the
Cut me
mistake.
some slack. All right. Plus, I lived in Wichita, which is not near those places, relatively speaking. I mean, Wichita's down here in the southern central part of the state, so you don't. I didn't get up to the Kansas City region and Topeka very often. We went to Lawrence for a state championship football game, but I was only an observer. So, all right. Any other business here when it comes to the ultras?
Well, I was going to say ultras. The correspondences, we got a big wave for the introduction, the first games, but you guys can continue to send in submissions as we go. And so feel free to keep entering those as we head into the second round of games. But kind of wanted to pick the picture before we leave of what all is in between us and our next show on Monday morning. So obviously today, a full slate of games, which includes the USA game, but then the Turkey-Paraguay late night at 11. Scotland takes on Morocco, Brazil and Haiti. I am actually curious. We've all seen the love stories between the New Englanders and the Boston and the Scots. I am really curious to see how, because the Boston area is going to trade the Scots for the English fan groups, and I'm going to kind of curious to see if the New Englanders vibe the same way with the English fans as they've had with the Scots. So curious to see that if what comes out of that. And then on Saturday, there is a Group F: Netherlands, Sweden, Germany, Ivory Coast, Ecuador, Curacao. So Curacao kind of on a murderer's row. Ecuador looked pretty strong in that first game. And then Sunday, there's a midnight game.
Disappointment. Ecuador was a disappointment in that first game, in my opinion. But
they hit the bar the most times since any team since 1980.
They did. Yeah, Curacao. Pray for Curacao. Absolutely. After what happened against Germany, you wanted to mention that Brazil and their fans are trying to avoid the problem that Ecuador had in their first game, because Ecuador, lots of people blaming Ecuador's failure in that match on and that was Cote d'Ivoire that they drew with. Do I have that right? Yeah. Or that drew it. They lost to Cote d'Ivoire.
Late lose.
Yeah, Ahmad Diallo. The curse of the Rocky statue apparently is why Ecuador started poorly, and Brazil fans are trying desperately to avoid the curse of the Rocky statue. Now, Haiti, right, for Brazil? Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure they need to. I don't think the curse is going to be a problem for Brazil. I don't think Brazil's great right now relative to historical Brazil, but they're going to beat Haiti.
They play Haiti at 8:30 tonight, and but the point being, seeing some social media updates of Brazil fans putting like a barrier or like a velvet rope around the statue to prevent anyone from putting a Brazil kit on the statue, which was a pretty amusing little thing to see. And then just like I said, painting the scene between what's happening between now and next show. Late night, Tunisia, Japan at midnight between Saturday and Sunday. And then Spain, will they bounce back from their opening draw? They take on Saudi Arabia. Uruguay take on Cape Verde. Will their twinkle on their star continue for the island nation? And then Belgium, Iran, New Zealand, Egypt. And I want to say New Zealand's goals and Chris Wood were some of my favorite things to the first round of games. I don't know if you saw the setups that he set up. I think the striker's name is Just, but the New Zealand goalkeeper was just like pinging like balls 3/4 length down the field, and they were just hitting Chris Wood's body and just dying, and he was like shoulder passing it. And then the first goal, if you guys didn't see New Zealand's first goal, that was just that's old school 1980s like Liverpool stuff. Big man knocks it down to little man goal, and that was just a lot of fun to see. But that's the weekend between here and now. MK Ultras that are correspondents for groups, feel free to send in your submissions. We'd like to keep that going. But the first round of group previews was really awesome. It just maybe should we do that's a Clangworthy moment. You guys took time to make some great content there. So if we get a clang-worthy clang for the correspondence, or the correspondence efforts were clang-worthy is probably a better way to say that. But you got any notes before we step away? I mean, you want to say anything more about the USA versus Australia?
Do I need to do this?
Yes. Thank you.
There you go. There's your clang, Rob. No, again, relatively confident. Think the United States takes care of business today. Books their place in the round of 32 on their way to winning the group, which would be very nice. Not being arrogant, Australia is going to be tough. They are not going to back down. But I think the energy of the day, the scene in Seattle, the quality the United States has, the confidence of Fowler and Balogun, it's going to be a different game than against Paraguay. But I think the U.S. will find a way to win.
To quote one of the leading pundits of this World Cup, arrogance is only something you call confidence if you're not intelligent, or something like that. What Zlatan said the other day. But anyway, interesting day. Had lots of World Cup between next show on Monday. So everybody, hopefully, hey, enjoy in the Discord. Share what you're doing for this USA versus Australia game day. We'd love to follow along. I'm going to get a chance to really follow things a lot more closer than the game against Paraguay. So yeah, let's stay active in the Discord, and we'll be back on Monday. So until then, stay safe, be brave, and enjoy your soccer.